pay $250 or confess. I'm Karen, 55. My dinner became a violation, and the board wants more than money. What they wrote in that letter, you won't believe it. The letter came at 6:12 p.m., slid under my door like a threat with a stamp. I smelled tomato and basil still in the air, and the paper smelled like toner and cold rules. I am Karen, and yes, I am speaking. The envelope said, important response required, and my hand shook before I even opened it. They said I committed a porch drop-off infraction by leaving lasagna on my neighbor's steps without prior notice. They said the smell disturbed the peaceful enjoyment of adjacent homes and attracted non-compliant gatherings. I blinked hard because it sounded like I had held a rock concert, not delivered dinner. I am Karen, 55, and I live alone with a tidy calendar and a stubborn heart. I cooked that lasagna because he had the flu and no one else was coming, and kindness felt like a duty. When the knock came after, it was not gratitude, but a warning from the compliance chair, eyes cool like glass. He read from a script about page 47 of the CC and RS, and I felt myself shrink to the size of a line item. I am still Karen, and you are hearing my side. The fine was $250 or a written confession to the board by Friday at noon. They wanted me to admit I knowingly violated the nuisance clause and promised to seek permission for any future doorstep food. My cheeks burned because permission for kindness felt like a leash around my throat. Coming up, you'll hear the exact sentence I refused to sign and why my refusal set off sirens you won't see coming. I stood at the sink, the pan soaking, red water swirling like a slow bleed. I wondered if the neighbor had even asked for this, or if the chair loved his power more than our peace. I am Karen, and I am not the villain in my own kitchen. I called the neighbor, and he whispered that he never complained, and that the smell made him feel less alone. His voice broke on, "Thank you," and mine broke on, "They find me." He said a board member saw me on the ring cam and decided to make an example, words that tasted like metal. I am Karen, and I have been made into an example before, but not like this. The dilemma perched on my tongue. Pay the fine and swallow the story, or fight and risk something bigger breaking. Coming up, I'll reveal what bigger means and why the board keeps a folder with my name in thick black marker. I paced the hallway counting breaths and counting years and counting how many times I said sorry when I wasn't. The clock in the living room ticked like a judge's pen, steady, final, unimpressed with my shaking. I am Karen, and I choose my battles, but this one chose me with a number and a deadline. I wrote 2 words on a sticky note, pay and fight, and stuck it to the fridge like a cheap ballot. At 7:03 p.m., my phone lit up with an unknown number, and a voice said, "If you don't sign, we escalate." I pressed the phone to my ear, and my mouth went dry because escalate can mean many things, and they did not say which. I opened the CC and RS like a map to a minefield and found page 47 staring back. The nuisance clause was written in soft words that cut deep when you read them twice. It banned odors, unapproved deliveries, and activity that invites attention. My lasagna, apparently, invited attention. I am Karen. And yes, I am still speaking. I circled the line about board discretion because that was the trapdoor under every word. Discretion is power, with perfume on it. They said they could decide what a nuisance was, even after the fact, even if no one complained. The neighbor's thank you meant nothing against a paragraph with teeth. I felt small, then angry, then very still, like a match before the strike. I am Karen, 55, and I have been talked over enough for 3 lives. I wrote a statement that said I delivered food in good faith and caused no harm. I refused to confess to a knowing violation. I printed 3 copies because paper feels like armor when voices get loud. Coming up, you'll hear what the chair said when I handed him those pages. At the open forum, folding chairs scraped like chalk on bone. The room smelled like coffee, toner, and cheap fear. The chair tapped the gavel, as if he owned the air. He read my name with that slow smile some men use when they expect you to fold. I am Karen, and I did not fold. He held up a photo from the ring cam. Me on the porch, foil glinting, night all around. He called it evidence of intent. He said intent was the issue, not outcomes, not kindness, not context. I said intent was kindness. And the room shifted, some eyes soft, some hard. Coming up, I'll tell you who stood up for me and why it made everything worse. A young board member, new and nervous, asked if the neighbor had filed a complaint. Silence hummed like a wire. The chair cleared his throat and said, "No formal complaint at this time." Murmurs rose, chairs creaked. Someone coughed the word, overreach. And then the first consequence hit me where I could not see it coming. She was the youngest on the board, maybe 28, with a neat braid and hands that trembled just a little. After the meeting, she caught me in the hallway and spoke in a whisper that felt like a door cracking open. "I'm Mia," she said, eyes darting, "and this isn't how it's supposed to work. I am Karen, and I am still speaking." She told me there was no resident complaint, just a director initiative to tighten control before budget season. She said they needed a headline example, something shiny to distract from a maintenance shortfall. I felt the floor tilt like the truth had been hiding under the carpet the whole time. Mia pressed a folded paper into my hand, a draft email she wasn't supposed to show. It named me as low-risk opposition and recommended swift discipline to signal standards. Low risk. They picked me because they thought I wouldn't fight. I am Karen, 55, and I have fought my whole life quietly with receipts. Coming up, I told her, they're going to make this personal. And she said, they already have. I went home and taped the draft beside the fine notice, 2 pieces of paper, like teeth facing each other. The next morning, my parking pass was gone from my windshield. No wind, no theft, just an empty clip, and a warning tucked under the wiper. Unregistered vehicle will be towed at owner's expense. I stared at it until the words doubled. I am Karen, and I park in the same spot I've paid for since 2011. I walked to the office and asked the manager to check the system. She smiled too brightly and said my pass had been flagged inactive pending compliance. Pending compliance with a lasagna confession. My mouth went dry, then steady. "I'm recording this," I said, and held up my phone. She adjusted her smile like a mask and said she'd escalate the ticket. Coming up, I'll tell you what the camera caught in the garage that night and why I couldn't sleep after. By dusk, the neighbor texted, "I heard they're towing tonight. Do you need my driveway?" I thanked him and said no. I wanted to see how far they'd go when they thought no one was looking. I am Karen, and I do not scare easy, but fear sat on my chest like a cat that wouldn't move. At 11:14 p.m., headlights rolled slow through the garage, and a tow truck's winch whined like metal gossip. A security guard pointed at my spot, at my car, at my empty clip, then at the list on his phone. I stepped into the frame, phone up, voice level, and read my unit number, my payment history, my rights. The guard faltered, The driver frowned, and then the night cracked open with sound. Sirens, sudden and too close, spilled blue across the concrete and turned our faces into strangers. The sirens were not for me. They knifed past the tow truck, ricocheted off cement, and stopped near the far stairwell by Building C. I am Karen, and I am still speaking. The guard's radio hissed a code I didn't know, and the tow driver dropped my bumper like it was suddenly hot. A door banged open. Feet thundered, and someone shouted, "He's down. Call it in again." I ran toward the echo. Phone still recording, breath short and ragged as paper. At the bottom of the stairs lay my neighbor. The one I fed, crumpled on the concrete like the night had folded him. His Ring camera had caught my kindness. Now my eyes caught his blood. I am Karen, 55, and I do not freeze when someone needs me. A paramedic slammed a bag down. Gloves flashed, a collar wrapped his neck, and someone asked his name. I said it for them. It felt like holding a string to keep him attached. "Ma'am, are you family?" A voice asked, clinical, careful, and I said, "I'm the one who brought dinner." The paramedic glanced at me like that meant more than it should. Behind me, the compliance chair appeared, tie straight, face smooth, clutching a clipboard at midnight. He asked the guard, "Is the tow complete?" Like there wasn't a man on the ground breathing through a tube. I am Karen, and I heard the universe click into place. People, paper, priorities. Mia arrived breathless, braid frayed, eyes bright with shock, and mouthed, "I called them," pointing to the sirens. She whispered that he'd slipped on the slick stair, that maintenance hadn't power washed in months. Budget shortfall, reallocated funds, deferred work. She poured quiet guilt into my ear. The chair cleared his throat and said the area was restricted, that only authorized board reps should speak to responders. I stepped closer to the paramedic instead, voice steady. "He's allergic to penicillin. It's on his fridge." The medic nodded, grateful for something useful in a room full of rules. I am Karen, and this is the choice that found me. Let the chair control the scene or contradict him on camera. The tow driver hovered, confused, while the guard looked between authority and humanity like it was a coin flip. "Coming up," I said into my phone, "you will hear the board try to shape a medical emergency into a compliance issue." The chair told the medic that food deliveries had caused community disturbance, and I tasted metal again. Mia's hands shook as she pushed a paper into mine. The maintenance log with skipped cleanings circled in red. For 60 seconds, the noise fell away. Even the sirens seemed to wait for my answer. Pay the fine, and keep quiet, or speak now, and make enemies I couldn't unmake. I am Karen, and I chose the second door. I held the phone to the medic and read the skipped dates out loud, each one a step my neighbor never got. The chair lunged for my wrist, stopped by the weight of a dozen watching lenses. "Coming up," I said, "is the sentence that ends the neighbor feud and starts a war I cannot win alone." I am Karen. My voice is steady. The garage still smells like metal and rain. They wheel him up. He squeezes my fingers. He is not gone. I exhale a year. Mia hits send. Every homeowner gets the logs. Every screen lights up. The whisper becomes a siren. The chair calls it misunderstood. The room calls it enough. I am Karen, and I am not sorry. I upload the tow video. I add the letter that called me low risk. The feed goes everywhere. Someone starts a recall. Lawyers call the board. Insurers call the board. The insurer hangs up. The policy dies at midnight. The HOA bleeds money. A receiver is appointed. No one claps. I am Karen, and I wanted fairness, not fire. The notice arrives at dawn. Emergency assessment. Lien risk. Immediate. My unit is flagged non-compliant. Outstanding. There is a hard knock. Metal footsteps pause outside my door.